Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the San Francisco Board of Supervisors meeting for Tuesday, March 20th, 2018. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Madam President. President Breed.
Here.
Breed present. Supervisor Cohen. Yes. Cohen present. Supervisor Fewer. Fewer present. Supervisor Kim. Kim present. Supervisor Peskin. Peskin not present. Supervisor Ronan. Ronan present. Supervisor Safai. Safai present. Supervisor Sheehy. Sheehy present. Supervisor Stephanie. Stephanie present. Supervisor Tang. Tang not present. Supervisor Yee.
Present.
Yee present. Madam President, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Are there any communications?
Yes, Madam President, we have one to report. Today, March 20th, we received a communication from Supervisor Aaron Peskin requesting that he be excused from the meeting today.
Okay, is there a motion to excuse Supervisor Peskin? Made by Supervisor Yee, seconded by Supervisor Sheehy. Colleagues, can we take that without objection? Without objection, Supervisor Peskin is excused. All right, Madam Clerk, next item.
Approval of the meeting minutes for February 13th, 2018.
Colleagues, is there a motion to approve the minutes from February 13, 2018? Moved by Supervisor Ronan, seconded by Supervisor Stephanie. Colleagues, can we take that without objection? Without objection, those meeting minutes will be approved after public comment. Madam Clerk, let's go to the consent agenda.
Items 1 through 5 are on the consent agenda. These items are considered to be routine. If a member objects, an item may be severed and considered separately.
Seeing no names on the roster, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
On items 1 through 5, Supervisor Yee.
Aye.
Aye.
Yee, aye. Supervisor Breed.
Aye.
Breed, aye. Supervisor Cohen. Cohen, aye. Supervisor Fewer.
Aye.
Fewer, aye. Supervisor Kim. Kim, aye. Supervisor Peskin is excused. Supervisor Ronan. Ronan, aye. Supervisor Safai. Safai, aye. Supervisor Sheehy. Sheehy, aye. Supervisor Stephanie. Stephanie, aye. Supervisor Tang.
Aye.
Tang, aye. There are 10 ayes.
Those items are passed unanimously. Madam Clerk, let's go to the next item.
Item 6 is an ordinance to amend the Public Works Code to establish fees for autonomous delivery device testing permits and appeals of the Public Works Director's decisions regarding such permits, and to increase fees for nighttime work permits.
Colleagues, can we take this item, same house, same call? Without objection, the ordinance finally passes unanimously. Next item.
Item 7 was referred without recommendation from the Land Use and Transportation Committee. It's an ordinance to amend the Planning Code to designate the wall located at the intersection of Diamond Heights Boulevard and Clipper Street as a landmark, and to affirm the Planning Department CEQA determination and to make the appropriate findings.
Supervisor Sheehy.
Yes, I'd like to refer this back to committee, please.
Okay, Supervisor Sheehy has made a motion to refer it back to committee. Is there a second? Seconded by Supervisor Safai. Colleagues, can we take that without objection? Without objection, this item will go back to committee. Madam Clerk, let's go to the next item, please.
Item 8 is an ordinance to deappropriate $926,000 of permanent salaries in the police department's operating budget and to reappropriate the funds to the department's overtime budget to support the increased overtime expense for security services at the Airport Bureau in fiscal year 2017-18 and pursuant to the financial provisions of the Charter, Section 9.113, subsection C. This item requires 8 votes of the membership.
Can you also please read item number 9?
Yes, item 9, ordinance to deappropriate approximately $13.3 million from permanent salaries, fringe benefit expenses, and non-personnel services, and to appropriate the funds to overtime in the Sheriff's Department, Police Department, and the Department of Emergency Management operating budgets in order to support the department's projected increases in overtime and to add salaries in the Public Health Department for fiscal years 2017 through 18. This item also has an 8-vote affirmative vote of the membership.
Okay, colleagues, seeing no names on the roster, can we take these items, same house, same call? Without objection, those ordinances pass unanimously on the first reading. Next item, please.
Item 10 is a resolution to approve the International Terminal Duty-Free and Luxury Store lease between DFS Group, LP, and the city for a 14-year term and an initial minimum annual guarantee, or MAG, of $42 million.
Same house, same call. Without objection, the resolution is adopted unanimously. Next item.
Item 11 and 12, Madam President. In any case, item 11 is a resolution to retroactively authorize the fire department to accept and expend a grant from the Federal Emergency Management Agency in the amount of $800,000 to purchase thermal imaging cameras and resources for its stress unit for a one-year period of performance of May 5th, 2017 through May 4th, 2018.
Please also read item number 12.
Item 12 is an accept and expend grant in the amount of approximately $215,000 for resources related to the Youth Fire Setter Prevention and Intervention Program for a one-year period of performance, September 1st, 2017 through August 31st, 2018.
Same house, same call. Without objection, the resolutions are adopted unanimously. Next item, please.
Item 13 is an ordinance to amend the Health Code to ban the sale and manufacture in San Francisco of animal fur products.
Supervisor Tang.
Thank you. I will not say too much on this item since I had already spoken in committee, but today I did want to speak to an amendment that I will be making in response to some of the concerns relayed to me from some of the business community here in San Francisco. So the amendment and what it will do to the fur ban is that the effective date will still be January 1st, 2019, but in order to allow for businesses to be able to get rid of their inventory, we are allowing them to be able to sell it all the way through January 1st, 2020, if they can, if retailers can, on the spot when an inspector comes, provide an invoice or produce an invoice that shows that they placed the order for the fur product before or on March 20th, 2018. If they cannot produce that invoice on the spot, then they will still be fined. But this, again, is in response to some of the retailers' concerns, and we're giving them really 2 years of time to get rid of their fur apparel and accessory products. So I would like to make a motion to amend and then hopefully have my colleagues support the legislation as amended.
Supervisor Tang has made a motion to amend. Is there a second? Seconded by Supervisor Stephanie. Colleagues, can we take the amendment without objection? Without objection, the amendment passes unanimously. And on the item as amended, can we take that same house, same call? Without objection, the ordinance passes as amended unanimously. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Item 14 is an ordinance to amend the park code to treat the rooftop park located above the Transbay Transit Center as a city park for certain purposes, to amend the health code to prohibit smoking on the rooftop park, and to affirm the CEQA determination.
Okay, colleagues, can we take this item, same house, same call? Without objection, the ordinance passes unanimously on the first reading. Next item.
Item 15 is an ordinance to amend the police code to prohibit employers and housing providers from inquiring about or requiring disclosure of or basing housing and employment decisions on convictions for decriminalized behavior, to include the non-commercial use and cultivation of cannabis, and to authorize the city to impose penalties for the first violation, to increase those penalties for the subsequent violations, and to authorize payment of penalties to victims, and to create a private right of action for the victims, and to further amend the administrative code to require city contractors and subcontractors to adhere to the above requirements when making decisions regarding employment.
Supervisor Cohen.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to take a couple minutes and I want to talk a little bit about this ordinance. And before I begin, I want to thank my co-sponsor, Supervisor Kim, who has been my partner since the beginning of this legislation. We partnered with the successful passage of the original version of the legislation in 2014. And I also want to recognize Supervisor Yee, who's also a new addition to the team. Last year, last year, the state legislature passed Assembly Bill 1008, and that's which in many ways was an outgrowth of the ban the box legislation that this body passed back in 2014. And the legislation before you today updates our city's ban the box ordinance and brings us into conformity with the state language that prohibits employers and housing providers from inquiring about from inquiring about and requiring the disclosure of or basing housing and employment decisions on an applicant's conviction history. In committee, Supervisor Stephanie asked that I consider moving the start date from October 18th to January 2019, and I just want to acknowledge that we have resolved this issue, and Supervisor Stephanie is now comfortable with the October 2018 start date. This new position, and correct me if I'm misspeaking, Supervisor Stephanie, is based on an outreach plan by the Office of Labor Standards and Enforcement to work with a particular focus to work with a sense of urgency and a focus on employers that employ somewhere between 5 to 20 employees. There are also 3 additional points I want to bring out. They will also include hard copy, multilingual mailings in June, English, Spanish, Chinese, and Tagalog. We will be emailing notices to all businesses registered with the Treasurer Tax Collector, and of course we will hold a webinar. I don't believe that there are any questions. I think this is pretty much straightforward. The private right of action, I want to acknowledge, was a difficult point for people to get around and to get support of. I hope that you will support me. It is maintained in this legislation. I just want to acknowledge that according to Holly Thomas, who is the Deputy Director of the Executive Programs for the State Department of Fair Employment and Housing, this is referring to Assembly Bill 1008, stated that this is simply a new category under discrimination, and that the same process and the same rights apply to Assembly Bill 1008. And so I hope that you will join me today in supporting this legislation as is. It's a thoughtful piece of legislation, and I believe it will further eliminate some of the barriers to entry that many of our incarcerated community members are facing. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Cohen. Colleagues, can we take this item, same house, same call? Without objection, the ordinance passes unanimously on the first reading.
Thank you.
Item number 16, please.
Item 16 is an ordinance to amend the administrative code to modify the procedures for the mayor to appear at the Board of Supervisors for a question and answer session.
Supervisor Safai.
Thank you, Madam President. The sponsor of this item asked us to continue this item to the next scheduled board meeting since he's out of town. So I'd like to make a motion to continue this item.
A second.
Supervisor Safai has made a motion to continue, seconded by Supervisor Cohen. Colleagues, can we take that without objection? Without objection, this item will be continued to the next meeting, which will be, Madam Clerk?
April 3rd.
April 3rd, 2018. Next item, please.
Item 17 is a motion to approve the mayor's nomination of Paul Henderson as the Director of the Department of Police Accountability.
Supervisor Cohen.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, I don't know if Mr. Henderson is in the chamber today, but I just want to urge you to support this gentleman. He's a fantastic, not only law-abiding citizen, but I mean, he's been he's just so thoughtful and even-handed when it comes to the application and the interpretation of the law. And I don't know if you know this, but he's also a style icon, and I think he's bringing style back to the Department of Police Accountability. But one thing that I definitely want to notice is not only is he very stylish, but he's very personable. And you may recall, almost 2 years ago, we brought a measure to voters to re-envision I forgot, was the department's name, Paul?
Office of Citizen
Yes,
Complaint.
the Office of Citizens Complaint, changing that department and changing it into something that's new, that's frankly forward-thinking and less complaint-driven to the Department of Police Accountability. And this was really, really creative and progressive in thought in nature. It also allows this department also allows us an opportunity to audit the police department, a function that we have not ever had that ability. So this is not only a professional, but also a man that is just a great human being. I'm delighted to see him moving up in the world, and I believe our city will greatly benefit from his leadership. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Colleagues, can we take this item, same house, same call? Without objection, the motion is approved unanimously. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Next item, Madam Clerk.
Item 18 is a motion to approve the mayor's nomination of Kate Black for appointment to the Historic Preservation Commission for a term ending December 31st, 2018.
Same house, same call. Without objection, the motion is approved unanimously. All right, Madam Clerk, let's go to committee reports.
Item 19 was considered by the Budget and Finance Subcommittee at a regular meeting on Thursday, March 15th, and the committee sent the item as a committee report. It's a resolution to authorize the General Manager of the Public Utilities Commission to accept a gift of snowflake lights valued at approximately $135,000 from the Market Street Association for use for the annual Market Street Snowflake Lights program.
Colleagues, can we take this item, same house, same call? Without objection, the resolution is adopted unanimously. Madam Clerk, let's go to roll call for introductions.
Supervisor Yee, you're first up to introduce new business.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So, colleagues, today I'm going to be calling a hearing on the current employment needs and gaps for older adults and adults with disabilities. We all recognize that ageism and ableism are real barriers when older adults and adults with disabilities seek employment. This is really unfortunate given the unique wealth of skills, experiences, and perspectives that our older adults and adults with disabilities offer to our workplaces and communities. In this age of rising inequity across our country, and especially in San Francisco, older adults and adults with disabilities need to achieve financial security also. And several studies show that meaningful employment opportunities provide a sense of purpose, social correctness, and overall improved well-being and the quality of life for older adults and adults with disabilities. According to the Department of Aging and Adult Services in 2016, in San Francisco, the unemployment rate for adults with disabilities is approximately 16%, which is about 5 times the unemployment rate for people without disabilities. 61% of the older San Franciscans lack basic economic security and most live on fixed incomes that have not kept up with rising costs of living. According to the 2016 data, 16% of over 25,000 of our city's seniors live below the poverty line, an income of less than $981 per month. About half of San Francisco seniors live on less than $2,943 per month, which is about 300% of the federal poverty level. OEWD agrees with the city's poorest age group are adults older than 65, but in its most recent 2015 consolidated plan, there was no mention of specific efforts to promote job opportunities for older adults. The purpose of this hearing is to evaluate the current city resources and programs dedicated to connecting older adults and adults with disabilities to employment, training, and job opportunities, such as the National Reserve Employment Program, which matches adults and people with disabilities to part-time paid opportunities to local nonprofits and public agencies. The San Francisco pilot was founded by the Office of Economic and Workforce Development and has been operating for at least 6 months. The purpose of the hearing is also to identify needs and gaps where the city can do more to support older adults and adults with disabilities in funding meaningful employment, as well as identify the necessary resources to expand and better promote employment opportunities for the city's older adults and adults with disabilities. I would like to request the following offices and departments to present at this hearing: the Mayor's Office of Disability, the Department of Aging and Adult Services, and the Office of Economic and Workforce Development. As a city, we can, and we must do better for our older adults and people with disabilities. I want to thank Maria Jobling from the Community Living Campaign, who has been hosting the San Francisco Reserve Program, for bringing this issue to my office's attention. Her organization and DOS will be co-hosting a Work Matters Forum this Thursday at the First Unitarian Church from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. I look forward to working with these city agencies, my colleagues, and community-based partners and stakeholders to identify programs and resources to better support our city's growing older population and adults with disabilities in finding meaningful pathways to employment. The rest I submit.
Thank you, Supervisor. Madam President.
Thank you. Colleagues, I have just 2 items today. The first is a resolution commending the men and women of the San Francisco Fire Department for their efforts in addressing Saturday night's 4-alarm fire at 659 Union Street. As we know, a 4-alarm fire Saturday night destroyed a building in North Beach, displacing several businesses and neighboring tenants. As a former fire commissioner, I have had the opportunity to witness the heroic efforts of our firefighters, paramedics, and EMTs on several occasions. And Saturday's fire was no exception. I was in the area Saturday night and visited the scene along with a few other officials, and I saw firsthand the intensity of the fire and the actions by our first responders who risked their lives by going into a burning building to search for occupants and help evacuate neighboring buildings and secure the scene. In all, over 40 fire engines, 7 medic units, and 130 firefighters were on the scene battling the fire and protecting the public for hours into the early morning. And I just want to be clear that the priority of the department, time and time again, is always to make sure that they save lives first. Thankfully, there were no civilian injuries, but unfortunately, one of our own firefighters was injured after falling from a fire truck. I know that some have raised questions about the timeline of this fire, questions that we know will be answered after the fire is investigated through our standard process. But I think it's important to recognize the incredibly dangerous work that our firefighters, our paramedics, and EMTs do every single day for our city, particularly when a fire like the one, particularly in the case of the fire we saw Saturday night. It was a challenging fire under the most difficult circumstances, and they did an incredible job. And for that, I plan to introduce a resolution recognizing them for their work. The second item I have is a in memoriam for Dana Harrison. Dana was a leader in the San Francisco arts community. She died tragically on March 9th. The cause was a rare and fast-moving cancer. Dana was part of Black Rock City's senior staff, serving as Burning Man's business services director from 1998 to 2005. She used her skills to turn an eccentric desert art rave into a stable, sustainable, and profitable arts organization, which last year drew over 70,000 visitors from around the world. During the late 90s and early 2000s, Dana devoted much of her personal energy and her own money to convert a rundown West Oakland factory into an affordable live-work performance space for artists. The project provided local dancers and theater artists with invaluable rehearsal and performance space for several years. She formed her own production company to produce How to Survive the Apocalypse, a Burning Man-centered rock opera that brought together her love of Black Rock City's free-wheeling creativity with her passion for opera and theater. Harrison then joined Theater Bay Area's leadership team, where she worked on behind-the-scene curtain activities center to the theater community. She tackled social issues, promoting non-traditional casting and addressing gender disparity. She worked with the city to help bring theater to the mid-market revitalization efforts. Most recently, she had taken on a new role with the Berkeley-based Ridwan Foundation, an international educational organization focused on spiritual and psychological growth. Dana worked outside the limelight of center stage. Her gift for making deeply personal connections with people helped her touch hundreds of lives. She led, inspired, mentored, and created change. The city of San Francisco gratefully recognizes Dana for her contributions to the Bay Area's creative arts community, and she will be truly missed by her family and friends. The rest I submit.
Thank you, Madam President. Next up to introduce business is Supervisor Cohen.
Thank you. So today I'm introducing a resolution adopting CEQA findings for the San Francisco PUC's Sewer System Improvement Program Biosolid Digester Project. Thank you. Over 50 years operating, after over 50 years of operating in the existing Southeast plant using technology that dates back to the 1940s, San Francisco is finally updating the water pollution treatment plant. This update will not only be more energy and water efficient, it will also eliminate odors. And trust me when I tell you, you definitely know when you're in the sewage treatment plant area, because there is a very strong odor, particularly on nice sunny days. So the odors have pervaded the neighborhood for generations, and it's about to change, and we're excited. Once completed, this project will be a huge improvement for the neighborhood, for the city, and for our water infrastructure across the entire county. The rest I submit. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Cohen. And for the remaining members who need to introduce new business, we'll return to this item after the special 2:30. Madam President.
Thank you, colleagues. Today we are celebrating Women's History Month and recognizing the incredible contributions that women from all over San Francisco have done to make San Francisco a better place for each and every one of us. Women's History Month is a time to appreciate their contributions and the contributions of courageous leaders working to improve the quality of life of all San Franciscans. As we look around this room, I'm proud that we have so many female leaders and role models here with us today. But we still have a long way to go for the fight for gender equity. And San Francisco prides itself on leading the way for social change. In fact, every member of the Board of Supervisors is paid the same thing, and we have men and women on the board. Don't we wish it was like that everywhere? And we need to keep fighting for pay equity, for female leadership, for resources to allow women to succeed. Since 1996, the San Francisco Commission on the Department of the Status of Women has recognized the vital work and contributions of women in our local communities through this amazing Women's History Month program. And I am proud to be a part of this celebration. I would like to welcome the Director of the Department of the Status of Women, Emily Marase, to the podium to say a few words to kick off this occasion.
Good afternoon, President Breed and members of the Board of Supervisors. Happy Women's History Month. Here today representing the strongest commission on the status of women in the country. President Debbie Meslow, Vice President Brianna Zwart, Commissioner Marjan Philauer, Commissioner Carrie Schwab-Pomerantz, Commissioner Andrea Shorter, and Commissioner Julie Su. We're here to launch Women's History Month and celebrate the exceptional women making history in our communities. This is the first time in 20 years that we have a majority female Board of Supervisors. So I want to take a moment to recognize the women on the Board of Supervisors. President London Breed, Supervisor Malia Cohen, Supervisor Sandra Lee Fewer, Supervisor Jane Kim, Supervisor Hillary Ronan, and Supervisor Katie Tang. The national theme for the 2018 Women's History Month is Nevertheless, She Persisted, honoring women who fight all forms of discrimination against women. As many of you know, in 1998, San Francisco became the first city in the world to enact a local ordinance reflecting the principles of the UN Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. In 2013, Mayor Ed Lee launched Cities for CEDA, encouraging other cities to follow San Francisco. And I was at the UN Commission on the Status of Women meetings last week, where the NGO committee presented to former First Lady Anita Lee a Courage Award to the late Mayor Ed Lee for spearheading the Cities for CEDA campaign, which now exists in over 60 cities nationwide. Please join us for a reception at 5 p.m. at the Mayor's Conference Room, where we will be hearing from the Mayor's honorees and the honoree from District Attorney George Gascon. I'm going to turn it back to President Breed and members of the Board of Supervisors so you may introduce your honorees this year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Marase, for continuing to honor this tradition year after year. And so with that, I'd like to start with Supervisor Stephanie.
Colleagues, today I am proud to honor Seema Daryanani for this Women's History Month commendation. Activist Shannon L. Adler once said, "Beauty is not who you are on the outside. It is the wisdom and time you give away to save another struggling soul like you." This quote encapsulates the amazing spirit of our District 2 honoree. For the last 10 years, Seema has served as the San Francisco chapter chair for International Sanctuary, a nonprofit with a central mission to empower people escaping human trafficking to embrace their true identity and worth. There are more people enslaved today than at any other time in history. According to current figures, 45.8 million people are trafficked throughout the world, and 80% of these are women. Through International Sanctuary, survivors of human trafficking can begin to heal and grow in mind, body, and soul. It is the mission of the organization to support and care for victims of modern-day slavery, but also to go beyond to empower them to become survivors with true freedom. They combine employment with holistic care to provide a path of reintegration of young women rescued from trafficking. Strong and pure leadership is not about the leader, but about those they serve. By providing meaningful employment through International Sanctuary's social enterprise, Purpose Jewelry, girls are able to support themselves and obtain job training and experience. Through this program, they handcraft all jewelry pieces to sell worldwide, and 100% of those profits are returned to support their advancement. Seema is a faithful supporter, and she is also an expansion partner for this enterprise, which has grown exponentially under her. The brand continues to support funds for education, life skills training, counseling, and medical care. Seema also named one of the sold handcrafted necklace pieces commemorating the 10-year anniversary of the organization, Shakti, which is Hindi for strength. Hundreds of women have been served through the organization's programming, including $120,000 given directly to survivors in the form of paychecks. As we are all very aware, amazing things happen when women help support other women. Seema's professional career is also rooted in human resources and recruiting, with a particular expertise and focus on promoting inclusion and diversity throughout the tech industry. She continues to be a champion for women and people of color, engaging employees and management at all levels to communicate the importance of diversity, inclusion, and equity. I am so proud to present Seema Daryanani with today's commendation and thank her for her ongoing commitment to fight for women's rights and empowerment. She's also joined by her two beautiful daughters, two future leaders, Dia and Anjali, and her husband, Amit. Seema, we'd love to hear from you.
you so much, Supervisor. I am so overwhelmed by this. Supporting this kind of organization has been very important to me, but got even more important to me when I had 2 little girls. I just want to thank my family, my husband, Amit, and my 2 daughters, Dia and Anjali, and all of the friends that I have, these strong women supporting me here today who have continued to support me throughout the years and support this organization. Thank you.
Congratulations, and thank you again for being here with us today. Okay, and with that, Supervisor Tang, you're next.
Thank you very much. I'd like to call my honoree up, Miss Valerie Ziegler from Lincoln High School. If I were still in high school, I think Miss Ziegler would be my favorite teacher, even though I know we're not supposed to pick favorites. But I want to welcome Miss Ziegler as well as her dad, Robert Ziegler, who traveled all the way from Florida to watch Miss Ziegler receive this honor. Welcome. So in my more than 10 years working in District 4, I have not met a more engaged, thoughtful, excited, and hardworking teacher than Ms. Ziegler. She is always going above and beyond to ensure that her students have a worthwhile and immersive experience. And I've definitely personally witnessed this. Ms. Ziegler founded the Green Academy, which is a 3-year college preparatory program that provides content and work experience in the environmental and energy sector. And the coursework focuses on sustainability and providing hands-on training for students interested in careers in the green economy. She's also a team teacher in the Teacher Academy, which provides hands-on experiences for high school students interested in the field of education or careers working with children. And in addition to being a team teacher in the Green Academy and the Teacher Academy, Ms. Ziegler is a U.S. History, American Democracy, Economics, and AP U.S. Politics and Government teacher. She served for 3 years as chair of the Social Studies Department and is currently, again, as I mentioned, a teacher in the Green Academies and Teacher Academies. Since 2005, Ms. Ziegler has been taking students to Washington, D.C. as part of the Close-Up program to help them learn the responsibilities of citizenship and the joy of travel. And so it was unsurprising that back in 2010, Ms. Ziegler was named one of 5 California Teachers of the Year, and then in 2011 named the Gilder Lehrman California History Teacher of the Year. Critical thinking skills, relevancy in the curriculum, and teaching through simulations are foundation of Ms. Ziegler's teaching philosophy. And as I mentioned, Ms. Ziegler is constantly trying to find ways for students to truly be engaged in the community. And our office often partners on projects together, whether it's about proper recycling and composting for students and how it is that they're addressing litter issues around the neighborhood, to addressing brown water coming out of their drinking fountains at school, or learning more about city government. I'm constantly in awe of all that Ms. Ziegler does. Ms. Ziegler loves to travel, and she spent her winter break on a boat in the Galapagos, and she'll be doing field work for her global competency certification in Colombia, and this summer she'll be studying STEM education in Germany. So I think here in our San Francisco Unified School District, we definitely need people like Ms. Ziegler to inspire other young women and men to really be engaged in the community. And thank you for always going beyond just what you do in the classroom. So with that, I commend Ms. Valerie Ziegler as our District 4 honoree this year.
To echo the speaker before me, I'm pretty humbled myself. I want to say thank you to all the Board of Supervisors and friends of the San Francisco Commission on the Status of Women for hosting this. And as Katie said, I'm really just grateful for our collaboration and friendship. She is the role model every time she comes in my classroom just to speak or to help us on a project or do a mock interview. She just really inspires the students in the room. Every day in San Francisco, young girls and women come to school with incredible hardships and burdens that weigh heavy on them, and yet they persist. They try their best to put aside economic, ethnic, and gender-based discrimination and learn. It's no easy task. I think of the young woman whose parents skipped her high school graduation to attend her brother's because he was the boy. I think of the young woman who was responsible for taking her cousin to daycare, and she was late to school every day, and she failed classes. I think of the countless young women who are dissuaded from a field of study because they don't fit a gender or stereotype. Despite all this, I think of my student Leslie, who partnered with her cousin to create a DACA club at Lincoln to support their undocumented classmates. I think of Brittany, who created a Black girls group to bring in mentors to discuss issues that impact their lives. I think of my former Teacher Academy students, Arissa and Maymay and Olivia, and all of them that are now working in our district. I think of all my Green Academy students that Supervisor Tang mentioned that are finding really creative solutions to climate change. And I think of my student Emily last year who overcame cancer to be a freshman this year at SF State. As teachers, we do our best to help these young women persist and fight whatever discrimination comes their way. We are the ones in the front line of combating discrimination through the lens of tolerance that we teach. It is the role of our communities and our cities to provide the supports to help them persist. I want to thank you all again. Thank everyone for being here, for an advocate for women. And it can be really challenging, but it's also the most rewarding thing. So thank you again.
TV, like, yeah, away from the TV, thanks.
Congratulations again, Ms. Ziegler. And thank you for all you do. Okay, it is now my turn, and I'd like to ask Amalia Martinez to come forward, please. Amalia has been a leader at the Alamany Farmers Market for over 30 years. And for those of you who don't know about this incredible market, it was founded on August 12, 1943, and is the first farmers market in the state of California. The Victory Garden Council and regional farmers started the market during World War II to help bring fresh produce from small farmers to local households. Under Ms. Martinez's leadership, the market has not only adapted to the changing needs and tastes of San Francisco and our neighboring communities, but the market continues to grow and to thrive. Farmers and customers have been coming to the market for generations, and Ms. Martinez has built a close-knit community of folks who look forward to seeing each other each and every week. Ms. Martinez manages more than 80 farmers, fostering incredible relationships among the farmers and shoppers. She also oversees the EBT program, making sure that all San Franciscans have access to fresh, healthy produce as part of their diet. And she does all this with a humble smile. And I am proud to honor such a fierce and dedicated representative of the city. Thank you, Amalia, for building such a strong community for over 30 years. There are so many people who frequent the market who have sung your praises about your smile, what you've done, how you bring the community together, and what an amazing legacy to have been there for this long and to meet so many different families over the years and provide this incredible opportunity. Thank you for your consistency, your activity, and everything you do to ensure that future generations will be able to continue to enjoy San Francisco's most treasured farmers market.
Thank you so much for this award. It means a lot to me. It has been a blessing to work for the city for over 30 years. Throughout this journey, I have met amazing people, and I thank each one of them for sharing their knowledge, their strength, their support, especially the hardworking farmers who work they have no rest. So I really do appreciate this award, and from the bottom of my heart, I cannot thank you enough.
Thank you. All right, it's only been 3 people, and already I'm feeling the amazingness of all these incredible women. Next up, Supervisor Kim.
Bring up Miss Connie Moy to the podium. Connie is one of our residents and tenant leaders in the Tenderloin neighborhood. And Connie was born in 1930 and immigrated to the United States from Hong Kong right after the World War II in 1947. Because at the time the U.S. had a law that mandated that GIs could only marry and sponsor wives from outside the United States who were at least 19 years old, Connie was, quote unquote, 19 when she entered our country and married her first husband. This was an arranged marriage. She had 6 children with her first husband, Philip, George, Danny, Karen, John, and Benny. And after 12 years, Connie divorced her husband and met and fell in love with her second and last husband in Reno, Nevada, who she had her 7th child with, a daughter named Lavita. Connie has lived all over the United States, from Mississippi to Manhattan to Reno, Nevada, where she was a blackjack dealer for over 30 years. And then she eventually came to San Francisco, where she has made the city her home for the last 20. I mentioned that Connie has been the president of the Tenderloin Chinese Community Association twice. And under her leadership, the membership of this organization has grown from the initial 45 members to over 200 residents in the Tenderloin neighborhood. And Sue, who is an organizer with TNDC, is here with her today. At 87 years old, she still goes to every single rally, meeting, and event that has anything to do with the residents of the Tenderloin. And we see her here often in board chambers as well. There's so many stories about Connie and her advocacy for our community, but I will just tell you one story that I love so much. In 2002, when I was a youth organizer at Chinatown Community Development Center, Maria Manor, as well as a group of other single-room occupancy hotels in the Tenderloin, were in the process of being purchased by an investor in Los Angeles. Their plan was to demolish all of these buildings, leaving at least 129 seniors and individuals with disabilities without a home. Connie rallied her neighbors who were depressed and saddened to hear the news, and she said, "We cannot give up now. This is our home. We're going to fight back." So she organized rallies and hearings until then Mayor Willie Brown could no longer ignore Connie Moy, and he finally invited her and her residents to a meeting with him. And she worked with him every day for 6 straight weeks. This group of seniors, led by Connie, would wait for hours at times, often only told by the mayor's office to come back another day when the mayor would see them. And they kept coming back and back again, and then they finally were able to work with Mayor Willie Brown to stop the sale of these buildings. The city then facilitated financing to the Tenderloin Neighborhood Development Corporation, who then bought all the single-room occupancy hotels, including Connie's home, where she's lived for the last 20 years. And Maria Manor and the hotels surrounding it were saved and established as permanently affordable housing for our residents since. Connie, thank you so much for all of your work, not just to fight for the 120 seniors, disabled men and women who are able to stay in their home all these years because of your efforts, but also your work to preserve affordable housing and your continued work to bring more urban gardens, healthy corner stores, pedestrian safety. The list is endless. So thank you so much for being a role model to so many younger women and showing what we can do in a lifetime committed to public service.
Thank you, thank you. I thank you so much, everyone, and special thank you, Ms. Jane Kim. Every time what we ask Ms. Jane Kim come to our meeting, and she always there, always. And sometimes we ask, we have a little talk with my neighbor or a small meeting, and Ms. Jane Kim, she always there and try to help us, the Tenderloin area, to move to the much a better way. And I thank you so much, Ms. Jane Kim, and thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Congratulations again, Connie, and thank you so much for your service. Thank you so much.
May I say a couple more minutes? even right now, I'm almost 88 years old. I've been doing, when the GNDC take over the Marine Manor, 2001, and they want to cut off the activity coffee hour because the company, they want over 100 senior and disabled. They come down every morning, 8 a.m. So we gave her the coffee and donut provided from the company. So when they changed to the new company, they want to cut it off. I speak up, I said, no, keep that program. I will take care of that. 7 a.m., I make coffee for 80 people and give out everybody a donut. Just want the senior and disabled people come down, meet with the neighbor. And I still continue to do that since 2001.
Thank you. Okay, next up, Supervisor Peskin can't be here today, and Supervisor Kim will be presenting on his behalf.
So I am really lucky to be able to honor two amazing women today. And the next woman I want to bring up is Anna Handelman. Many of you may already know Anna of Sodini's Green Valley in North Beach, and this is Supervisor Aaron Peskin's nominee today. And by the way, Aaron told me to tell you he completely and totally adores you, not just when you give him a free drink. Anna is a fifth-generation North Beach native whose ancestors immigrated to California from Genoa, Italy in 1848. Her entire family is steeped in North Beach culture and history, with a painter father and a mother who ran the spaghetti factory for decades, marrying in the factory's garden in 1961. Her mom and pop still live near Coy Tower, and one of her grandmother, Filomena's mural graces the towers inside the wall. Her great-great-grandparents' business is also still anchored in North Beach, the Canessa Gallery across from the Trans-America Pyramid Tower. It was the Canessa Printing Company in its previous incarnation. Growing up in the restaurant industry, she has said that she feels the most at home there, surrounded by loud conversations, delicious home-cooked food, and a deep community love. And I have watched Anna in action. You can find her behind the bar almost on any given night at Sodini's wearing her trademark hoop earrings, which she's wearing today, a Giants jersey, and the 100-watt grin, cracking jokes with locals, soothing cranky regulars, and catering to first-time tourists. She's been serving the Sodini community for 21 years and has a very loyal following, so watch out when you go in there. She's seen the neighborhood change and has borne witness to marriages, divorces, promotions, bar fights, all of the milestones of a vibrant North Beach life. As we celebrate a woman who has persisted against all odds, I want to recognize women like Anna who do back-breaking work every single day in our restaurant and service industry, working long hours, getting home after 2 a.m., and it's not just their physical work, it's that they also provide an anchor for the communities that they serve as a part of. Anna is not just a server, she is your trusted advisor and confidant. She's a shoulder to cry on and an open ear to listen to, and she is deeply committed to the North Beach community. Her signature cocktail, the Liz Taylor, was recently featured at Sodini's 110th anniversary 2 years ago. It's a cosmopolitan with a little, I can't pronounce it, Curacao?
Curacao.
Oh, Curacao, thank you. Thanks, Sonny. Which adds romance, according to Anna. When I first met Anna, one of the first things that I knew that I related to her was her love for food. It's something that brings us together across cultural and ethnic lines. And if you're like me, it's a way to express love and gratitude. What Anna has created at Sodini's is really an expression of love, the very old school way. She takes you where you are, warts and all, and celebrates the grit, soul, and mess of life. Growing up, she wanted to be a housewife and mother because that's what women of her generation were supposed to do. But instead, she became a matriarch of a community legacy, and North Beach won't ever let her go. So on behalf of Supervisor Aaron Peskin and the entire Board of Supervisors, I want to extend our board's highest honor to you on Women's History Month. Thank you for repping our community and for always giving back.
Thank you. I'd like to thank you, Jane Kim, and the Board of Supervisors. I'm very happy to meet some of you, first time here. And I don't have much to say, but I do want to say that my great-grandmother was the first woman in California to be on the Planning Commission. And that was, I don't know what year, but a lot of our histories kind of faded away. A lot of documents were burned in the 1906 fire/earthquake. But I can't go anywhere without seeing somebody I know, and it's always nice. And I try to be welcoming in my neighborhood to people. When new people move in with their children, and the children, they're leaving, but the kids are staying to go to college, I say, you know, if the children ever need anything, come on by. I'll give them food, I'll give them money, whatever they need in case you can't get here. So we just try to make bonds like that. And working in one place so long is like, wow. But just thank you for this honor. I don't feel I'm the caliber of like the school teacher, the lady from TL, but very nice. Thank you.
We love you.
Congratulations again, Anna, and you are the caliber. Thank you. All right, next up is Supervisor Sheehy.
Thank you. I'd like to call Johanna Ramirez to the podium, please. Today, I am proud to recognize Johanna Ramirez for her extraordinary courage in surviving domestic violence and becoming an activist for the rights and protection of all women. Johanna advocates against the intersectional violence imposed by patriarchy, capitalism, and racism. This systemic violence violates the lives of all women, be they transgender, indigenous, adolescent, or migrant. Beginning in 2004, Johanna was the executive director of the Organization for Trans Queens of the Night, which worked to empower and advocate for transgender women, whether or not they did sex work, in Central America and Guatemala. Her experience with indigenous women in Guatemala and young women throughout Central America showed her that the fight against domestic violence is not limited to certain populations of women. Rather, that the fight must be understood as intersectional in lives of all women, regardless of sex, age, race, gender identity, or socioeconomic status. As a member of the Network for Trans Women in Latin America and the Caribbean, she saw the reality of systematic violence experienced by women. She was a powerful voice at conferences held by the Organization of American States and the United Nations Human Rights Council, as well as being active in the LGBTTI Coalition of Latin America and the Caribbean, where she facilitated various community workshops. In 2016, Johanna's proposal to protect the health of the trans community was included by Guatemala's Ministry of Public Health and their National Comprehensive Health Strategy for Trans People. However, at the same time, she was suffering from extreme domestic violence from her partner and threats of assassination. Johanna migrated to the United States for her safety, and she continues her extraordinary work in San Francisco through organizations La Voz Latina, the St. James Infirmary, and Latinas in Action. So it's with great pride, and I'm humbled by your work. It is truly courageous. I'm honored to present our board's highest commendation to Johanna Ramirez.
Quiero agradecer a todos aquí en general. Para mí es importante el ser reconocida como una mujer, ya que en mi país de nacimiento no se me reconoce como tal.
I would like to thank everyone in here. It's really important for me to be recognized as a woman, being that in my country of origin, I am not recognized as such.
Agradezco a todas nuestras ancestras que han abierto una agenda sólida para las mujeres y hoy creamos historia en esta época tan dura en la que las mujeres estamos alzando la voz.
I am thankful to all my female ancestors who have opened the path to this very solid fight.
Creo de que estos espacios donde se reconoce la vida de las mujeres son importantes para inspirar a nuestras niñas y adolescentes a asumir una responsabilidad política.
And I think that these spaces where we recognize what women do are very important spaces to stimulate and inspire our young women and young girls to want to engage in the political activism.
Hoy en día hay muchas niñas embarazadas en el mundo, mujeres violentadas, pero eso es una fuente de inspiración para seguir aportando a una sociedad que busca la equidad de género, esta equidad de género que nos va a brindar la felicidad a todo el planeta.
Today, we have so many young girls pregnant around the world and so many girls being victims of domestic violence, but that is just an inspiration for us to continue the fight, a fight that will only bring us equity of gender and happiness.
Y quiero cerrar con una frase que me ha llamado mucho la atención y creo que el ser mujer no es sinónimo de victimización, pero debemos nosotras de alzar la voz. Y la frase dice así.
And I would like to close with a phrase that I think it's all about optimism and all about us women raising our voice. And this is what the quote says.
Las mataron, pero viven en nosotras.
They killed them, women, but they are alive in us.
Las callaron, pero somos su voz.
They were silenced, but we are their voices.
Gracias a cada uno de los supervisores por esta tarde tan hermosa.
Thank you to everyone and each one of you supervisors for such a beautiful afternoon.
Congratulations again, Ms. Ramirez. Next up, Supervisor Cohen.
Thank you very much. And in today's fashion, we are celebrating women. And I want to again acknowledge and uplift the Commission on the Status of Women and thank my friend, Dr. Emily Morase, for bringing this special accommodation and celebration forward. I am honoring a woman that many of us know or maybe don't personally know, but have come to see in the hallways. And one of the things that I like to do is I try to recognize and uplift people, not only those that I see when I'm looking forward, but pay attention to the women that stand in the background, that women that make it possible for us to be on the Board of Supervisors, that make it possible for us to work in this incredible building. And for those of you that don't know, I want to introduce you to Claudine. This is Claudine Bingham, ladies and gentlemen, and you may recognize her from the halls of San Francisco City Hall. Claudine has served as a custodian in this building for over 20 years, and has on occasion been heard singing in the custodial closet right next to room 279. She is a born Jamaican. Claudine moved to the United States when she was 16, and she attended John Adams Adult High School. She has lived between the Bay Area and Texas for most of her adult life. Claudine is a mother of 3 children, Tisha, Shonda, and Sade, who lives in Sacramento. Now, Claudine is known in my office for her sense of humor, her quick wit, and her love of food. And particularly want to call attention to, she's got an amazing green thumb. She's brought back to life many plants. She has given a huge amount to our City Hall community, from judging the holiday bake-off to finding and watering office plants. Some of you do not even know this, but she's going into your office and sharing life. And you know what? She's also offering doctor's referrals. She gives me fashion advice, particularly when she thinks my skirts are too short. She is that loving spirit that you run into the hallway. She has criticisms and critiques abound. Some of them are solicited, but most of them are not. She's like that auntie, you know, that will pull your skirt and will check you when you need to be checked. And she's got something to say about everything, ladies and gentlemen. That's what makes her so special. Sometimes we can overlook people like Claudine, but we shouldn't. And in today's moment of Women's History Month, I want to recognize this incredible woman in the space that she occupies. She is making history, and she is leading a life of purpose, and her energy and laughter brightens our days. And if you haven't met her in the hallway yet, you should start. Just stop and say hello. Now, I'll admit she looks really good today. You might not recognize her tomorrow. But you need to know this woman, because trust me, she knows your business and everyone else's business in this building. So I hope that you will join me in uplifting our colleague, Miss Claudine Bingham. Claudine, the floor is yours.
Oh, man. This is so funny.
The mic.
You are so funny, Miss Colin. Thank you, supervisors. With God, all things are possible.
Yes.
And I want to thank him, you know.
This is a rare moment, ladies and gentlemen. She is never at a loss of words. Very rare.
Oh. I just want to say, you know, why I'm in this building is because I love people. I love people. That's why I'm here. So I just want to tell you guys, I love you guys. Thank you, Supervisor Colin. Thank you for this award. You know, you make me out of speech. You make me out of breath. But I just want to say thank you. Thank you. Thank each and every one of you. You know, if I hurt anyone, say anything wrong to anyone, I'm sorry. But I just want to say I love you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudine. We love you too.
Say something. My co-workers. I just want to say thanks to all my co-workers around. Rowan, quite a few of them around here. I haven't seen them, but they somewhere around. I want to say, you know, my co-workers, Rowan, Victor, all my co-workers, I want to say thank you. I love you guys. Bye.
Congratulations again, Claudine. You look amazing today. All right, next up, Supervisor Fewer.
Thank you very much, President. I'd like to call up Kathy Burrick. It is my absolute pleasure to present a commendation today to Kathy Burrick, a dear friend and Richmond District resident. Kathy Burrick is a longtime dance instructor, activist, and union leader who has been teaching jazz, modern, and tap dance, as well as yoga at City College for 38 years. She has also taught dance and movement for 19 years at the University of San Francisco. Kathy came to San Francisco in 1973 from small town, Ohio, where she grew up. At City College, which was free at the time, she discovered that she could study dance and has been at it ever since. The first woman in her family to have a bachelor's and a master's degree, she has said, "I've been lucky to benefit from quality public education in California. I know what it's like to be these young people in my classes. Most at City College can't afford to be there. City College is one place you can go where you don't have to go into debt, where you can get a first, second, and third chance." And Kathy, that was definitely true for myself and my husband. Well known for her commitment to issues of social justice, Kathy has long dedicated herself to anti-war and anti-militarization causes and is known for bringing joy and, of course, dance to her political work. Her tireless enthusiasm and positivity is contagious and inspiring and shows up during phone banks, door knocks, union negotiations, and political actions. From first-hand experience, I can honestly say that Kathy's energy and imagination is galvanizing. A longtime Richmond resident and a leader in American Federation of Teachers Local 2121, she is well known for her bold and creative tactics for the issues that she cares about. Furious at the Marines for using sponsorship of a City College basketball tournament to do recruitment, she set up a counter-recruitment effort right next to them. She has led yoga sessions during civil disobedience actions, as well as afterwards while the arrestees sat in cells. Kathy and her students coordinated a Tax the Rich flash mob in support of Prop 30 in 2012. At rallies for Free City College and during the City College accreditation fight, she would often dust off her tuxedo tails and cane and lead the crowd in song and dance. Kathy has herself made thousands of phone calls for the campaign to save City College, and while door knocking, she's even been known to howl at the moon, as told to us by her friend Connie Ford, and I can say that's my kind of gal. Though big-hearted and hilarious, Kathy is also an unassuming leader and is not particularly comfortable in the spotlight. In fact, it took some convincing for her to accept today's commendation, but the truth is, Kathy has inspired and nurtured the leadership of countless other women with unabashed joy, making history every day. There are so many women doing incredible but often invisible work who we don't see in the spotlight, but who make it possible to accomplish big victories for women, working class people, queer people, low-income people, and people of color. Kathy is one of those women. Kathy always shows up. She inspires and motivates those around her, even when hope is waning, and her generous spirit has led her to support the next generation of countless other women activists and organizers. She may not always recognize her own power, but we do. And today, it is my pleasure to present Kathy with this commendation. We thought that instead of flowers, we would present you with a gift card from one of our favorite local legacy businesses, Green Apple Books, as a small token of our appreciation for all you do. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you. You make me sound pretty good. But honestly, it's like everything in me said no to this at first because I don't do anything exceptional. And then a few of my friends said, well, you do some things like so many women that are essential in supporting the women who are brave enough to step up and lead with passion to meet human needs and defend human rights. And some of them are behind me, like Elisa Messer from AFT 2121, and Connie Ford from the Labor Council, Julie Milanese from Jobs with Justice, who know how to coordinate, who know how to connect the dots, cooperate, and build coalitions of strong allies in community and labor, and even here at City Hall, that made City College free again, which has been one of my dreams for the young people, everybody's kids now. I'm sorry, that I work with. And Sandy, you have really shown that compassion really belongs in public policy, and that it deeply affects individual lives. And I can't tell you how happy that makes me. In D1, we're even having neighborhood meetings about how we want to see compassion and inclusivity manifested. I mean, that makes me really happy. It's downright inspiring. Me and so many women, like, we're ready to do outrageous things like more phone banking, and knocking on doors, and tabling, and gathering signatures, and rallying, marching, chanting, even singing and dancing for things that have heart and meaning. So thanks for recognizing our passion for a world with more compassion. And because it makes me nervous when everybody sits still because I'm a dance teacher, I want to invite everyone, including the gentlemen, to be honorary members of the Loud Ladies Foot Patrol for the next 30 seconds. Loud Ladies is a group organized of women, of my dear friend Martha Hawthorne and myself. We sing uplifting rhythmic chants in unusual venues. And we've stylized one just for this room. So if you are able, would you please stand up? Right? And, you know, rhythm is unifying and unity is powerful. So we're just going to sway a little bit, like this way and that way. And this way. You got it? There you go. It's okay if you bump shoulders. Yeah? Okay, now, we're going to snap. Usually you don't clap in City Hall, so we're going to snap. See, I'm following all the rules. All the rules. Yeah. And if you want to get fancy, you can go high, and then low, and low, and then high, and high. And I want to say for all of the women who work every day to make our world a much better place in so many different ways, here's a chant that we all can say. It goes, we are unstoppable. Another world is possible. Have you got it? Yes. Are you ready? Yes. Let me hear you now. Hey, we are unstoppable. Another world is possible. Yes, we are unstoppable. Like you mean it. Another world is possible. One last time. Hey, we are unstoppable. Another world is possible. Oh, yeah. Thank you.
And thank you, Kathy Burrick.
Thank you, Sandy. I still get flowers.
Make sure we can see you. What a pleasure to honor you, Kathy. My aide just texted me. That's brilliant.
Thank you, Kathy, for that break. We really enjoy that little bit of exercise that we were able to get for just a few moments. And congratulations, and thank you for all you do. With that, I'd like to recognize Supervisor Yee.
Thank you.
I got your back.
Thank you, President.
Supervisor Yee had a little rhythm there, I saw.
Yeah, I thought, you know, drums are going to come in this. Okay, let's be serious. Today, I'm going to be honoring no stranger to this chamber, Candace Wong, a woman who has been unwavering in her dedication in fighting and advocating for women, children, and vulnerable communities for over 30 years. And of course, I've known her for each one of those 30 years. Candace, thanks for stepping up. It is hard to choose career and volunteer highlights for someone who really have contributed and made an impact on more than a generation of women, children, and families in San Francisco. In fact, she has impacted the most important few that actually impacts women the most, which is early education. Candace has over 20 years of experience in the nonprofit sector, directing programs for family that include childcare, parent education, and support services and programs for immigrant families and English language learners. Candace has been the director of the California Child Development Programs for the Low Income Investment Fund, also known as LIFT, since 2010. Candace oversees the Child Care Facilities Fund, which is a national award-winning program that not only provides child care facilities development grants and loans, but also business capacity building programs and supports. These are projects that have high social value and impact to a community, but often these individuals cannot access services offered by traditional financial institutions. It is critical to recognize that the majority of these businesses are not only women-owned, their employees vastly women and women of color. But by supporting child care facility development, Candace and LIFT are also supporting a woman's ability to go back to work or school. Prior to being on working for LIFT, Candace really, to me, is what I consider very few people a Jill of all trades. Did you catch that? not Jack, Jill. Okay.
Got it.
So she worked at Wuyi Children's Services for many years, and during that time, it's really unusual to have somebody play the different roles that she played. I mean, usually people that are nerdy, that can count, will do the finances and accounting. That's Candace. Usually people that really are compassionate and just want to work with people and help them, that's Candace. And usually somebody that wants to work with people but don't really want to direct people because it's really hard to manage, but that's Candace. She was a family center director for 6 years. She served as my fiscal director for 5 years, and personnel and program officer for 1 year. Now, she might think that all these things that she did overlap during the same years, but actually were different years. But I've spoken to her about her professional career, but she's also volunteer on top of everything she's done for many organizations, including the Child Care Planning and Advisory Council, which is known as CPAC, which is a state-mandated group that advocates for increased investments and strengthening policies for children aged 0 to 12. Candace has been an appointed member without pause since 2001. Candace has served as not only the vice chair, but also the chair throughout her tenure and active member of many of the communities. This is not really a light commitment. It takes very time-consuming, but she's been able to do it for 17 dedicated years. For most people, this would be enough, but not Candace. Her unyielding commitment to women and children does not stop there. Candace was the principal and co-author of the 2014 Proposition C campaign for Our Children and Our Families Fund, which now ensures funding for the Children, Youth, and Fund through 2041. Candace has impacted more than a generation of women and families, and her work on the 2014 Proposition C, and this will ensure a generation of support. For 7 years, Candace was appointed also to the First Five Commission for the Preschool for All board, and for 6 years sat on a joint advisory committee for childcare. Now, I want to back up just a teeny bit back into her career a little bit and tell you a few stories. Now, Candace is getting kind of scared now. What I want to actually tell, because I better keep it above level. I want to say that I talked about her ability and her passion to fight for facilities. That's one part of what we need in early education. And one of the things I recall, there's two things I want to tell you about. I remember where she actually stepped up when there was an opportunity to bring infant care and education to San Francisco for the first time ever in the late 1990s, I believe. I actually went out to find consultants, high-paying consultants, to help us with it. And I approached two pretty well-known consultants that would do these type of work because it's a 100-page proposal. And they both turned me down. They said, well, it's like, you only have 2 months. It's impossible. We're professionals, but we can't do this. So Candace and I don't know what happened. We kind of stared at each other like, nothing's impossible. I mean, this is too important for us to not go for. So one of the things that Candace and I did, mostly Candace, she basically not only did her regular job, but spent evenings and weekends and on the telephone while I'm on vacation, putting a proposal together. And eventually, that we submitted to the federal government, 100 pages long, with details that we never heard of. And we were the first in the nation of any nonprofit outside of Head Start that actually got funding for our most vulnerable children in San Francisco, our infants and toddlers. So I want to give her a hand for that. The second story, I really, again, this is just about what she is. She was already running her department and so forth. A bunch of us in the city at the time when Mayor Brown was the mayor, and we approached him and advocated, you know something, not that it's changed a lot since then, but at the time, most of the people in the field were making very little money, mostly minimum wage. These are professional teachers in our programs. So we approached Brown and said, you know, we need help here. And lo and behold, we were able to have him understand the needs, and some funding was actually appropriated in the tune of, I think, it was a really small amount, a little over $1 million. But what happened was it was appropriated by February or January, and they said, if you don't spend the money, you're not going to, we're going to take it back. So if anybody's done anything for this with city money and try to put a program together in a few months and get the money out, it's almost nearly impossible. But Candace, even running her department, pretty much stepped up and says, let's get this done. And she was the one that orchestrated the whole program within a month or 2 months, actually. We actually were able to help about 500 to 700, I don't remember, people in the field to actually give them a stipend so that they could remain. So again, thank you very much, Candace. So you can see that she's made history in San Francisco, and I venture to say that she will continue to make history in her career. So please join me once again in honoring Candace Wong.
Thank you, Supervisor Yee, for that great honor. I think it's actually only been 20-something years, not quite 30. Just want to clarify that. Thank you so much for this honor. I think, it really means a lot. I think you remember a lot more than I do in terms of all this work. And I think, Supervisor Yee and I, in his former life, have done a lot of great work together on behalf of the children and families of their city. And this honor means especially a lot just because it comes from you, my mentor and my hero in serving the children and families of our city. So thank you. I also want to say, thank you to all our civic leaders in this room, because none of this work is possible without all of you and your dedication to our children and families in the city. And all of my colleagues, whether it's on CPAT, my team in LIF, and all of our colleagues in the city. It takes all of us to do this important work, and I think there's no greater privilege than to serve our young children and families in the city. Thank you.
Congratulations again, Candace, and thank you for your service. And with that, I'd like to recognize Supervisor Ronan.
Thank you so much. And before I call my amazing honoree up, I just want to thank Supervisor Cohen for solving a mystery for me. I had a plant in my office that I never watered that lived forever, and I had no idea why. I thought it was magic soil, but now I know how it lives, so thank you. And thank you, Claudine. I am delighted to honor Yensing Sihapanya Oy, Oy, I'm speaking Spanish, I don't know why, as our District 9 honoree for Women's History Month this year. Yenseng is a tireless advocate who has dedicated her life to supporting vulnerable women, children, and families. I have become a huge fan of yours, Yenseng, over the past few years, watching you kick ass as the Associate Director of the wonderful agency Portola Family Connections, a family resource center in the Portola neighborhood that exists to develop strong, healthy families and to build thriving communities. Family Connection provides over 30, I'm doing a little plug for Family Connection, provides 30 programs to support women and their children that include free preschool, health and nutrition programs, grandparent support groups, financial and parenting workshops, and much more. The programs are multilingual and support native speakers of Cantonese, Spanish, and Vietnamese. Back to you. Yin Sing is a critical leader at Family Connections who makes sure that the low-income and immigrant children and families who use the center are receiving high-quality programs that are among the best that San Francisco can offer. I have seen your leadership at play. You are a role model to your staff, to your clients, and to all of us that care about the Portola community. You have constantly gone above and beyond to ensure that your clients and the broader Portola community get the resources, information, and attention that they need and that they deserve. You have been a critical bridge builder in the neighborhood that experiences challenges with regards to communication and understanding between our diverse residents. You bring people together. You're someone who all community members trust and respect, and that's no small feat in our neighborhood. And at the same time, you are diplomatic, hardworking, fierce, and always incredibly loving. Yinseng was born in Laos and lived in Thailand before immigrating to California. She has lived in San Francisco for over 30 years and was raised with her 4 siblings in a studio apartment in the Tenderloin. Before working with Portola Family Connections, Yinseng directed a residential shelter for homeless families, provided opportunities for incarcerated youth to receive educational services, and serves as the associate director of an organization promoting the rights and well-being of LGBTQ families. Yensen, thank you so much for all that you do for the community. You are one of my heroes. I love you, and congratulations on this incredible honor for you today.
Thank you. I'm gonna make everybody do an interpretive dance. It's cheesy, but I always say I'm the luckiest girl in the world because I get to do what I do. I feel like my job is so easy because every day I see grandmas with children strapped to their backs, I see nannies, I see single mothers, and I see amazing 3-year-old girls who are still teaching me how to be a strong woman. So when Carolyn from your office called, I said it's such an honor to get this award, but more than anything, it's an honor to be around such amazing women, to be in this city that honors women, and to be around men, women, non-binary people who celebrate women, who celebrate young girls. So I'm just gonna take this honor back to the grandmas and to all the 3-year-olds, and we're gonna have many more years of ceremony because there are amazing girls out there that are just gonna rock this world. Thank you. Congratulations again, and thank you so much for your service. Last but not least, we have Supervisor Safai.
Thank you, Madam President. It is such an honor and privilege today to honor someone that has been a true warrior in our city for almost 4 decades. Dr. Estela Garcia, the Executive Director of Instituto Familiar de la Raza, a longtime Excelsior resident. A lot of people don't know that. Very proud to have you as one of my constituents and honoree today for Women's History Month. I'll share a private story or a personal story of my interactions with Dr. Garcia, but first I'd like to give a little bit of background of who she is and what she's accomplished. Growing up as a daughter of farm workers in the Central Valley, Dr. Garcia learned the persistence from her parents, most notably her mother, Frances Reyes Ramirez, for her commitment to equity and civil rights. Estela's work and life is rooted in the values of self, family, and community. In Estela's words, she says, "My mother raised me and my siblings to believe that all people are equal in the eyes of the Creator, and it is our obligation to speak truth to the witness when we witness injustice, even if that means we stand alone." And that has exemplified Dr. Garcia's career. She has continued and always worked to fight discrimination. Estela joined Instituto Familiar de la Raza in 1984, and over the past 34 years, whether the challenge has been to address a lack of services for LGBTQ Latinos at the height of the AIDS epidemic, the impact of violence on Latino youth in the Mission, Excelsior, and Outer Mission, the displacement of low-income families as our city has aggressively been gentrified and families have been pushed out, the health disparities affecting the Chicano, Latino, indigenous populations of San Francisco, or the needs to address the impact of trauma on communities of color. All of these things, Estela has been a strong advocate, an organizer, and a leader, never forgetting the particular role that how women are impacted disproportionately in all of these categories. A short list of her current efforts to address health disparities include participation in San Francisco's Health Improvement Partnership, Chicano Latino Indigena Health Equity Coalition, Roadmap to Peace Initiative, the Latino Equity and Parity Coalition, and providing cultural competency and multicultural training to the broader communities at CalMECAC at SF, House of Learning. As a result, her leadership as the executive director of Instituto has made it one of the most respected organizations in San Francisco. In 2009, she was honored by Carecen for her work. In 2010, Dr. Garcia received the San Francisco Latino Heritage Award. In 2011, she received the Champion Award. And this year, I'm very proud to say, through our work with my office, Instituto has expanded its brick and mortar services into the heart of District 11 at Mission in Geneva. And she will continue her great legacy of providing services and positive options to our transitional age youth, as that was a priority that we both shared. Thank you, Dr. Garcia, for your continued commitment to civil rights, equity, and community, and your lifelong definition, and as you are in your life, has defined the word persistence. I had such a wonderful opportunity in so many different circumstances to work with Dr. Garcia, and we've crossed paths in so many different avenues. When I was campaigning for office, I did not know she lived in my district at the time, and this was over a decade ago, and you have those voter lists, and you see someone in, and I said, wait a minute, Estela Garcia? I didn't know she lived in my district. And the more you go and the more you find out when you knock on people's doors, you get to share their personal stories and see where they are and where they've laid their roots. So it's such an honor to have you here today. It's such an honor to have you as part of this celebration. And thank you for everything that you embody and how you've dedicated your life. Please come forward.
Thank you, supervisors, and I particularly wanted to acknowledge Supervisor Safai today because I think it's just a wonderful thing when we have someone in our district who cares so much about all the families that live in the Excelsior and acknowledges, as he said, all the needs that exist. And I want to be part of that solution. That's all I want to do. There is no other agenda. It's about doing the right thing, right? That's what we have to do. So I want to begin actually with this morning I woke up and I have an altar to my mother, which I have had since her passing in 2014. And this morning I just gave her a very special thank you. And she has been a wonderful, beautiful first feminist in my life. As Supervisor spoke to, I was raised in the fields of the Central Valley, and those conditions are harsh. It's very difficult for families. I came from a very poor family. We had a lot of struggles and, challenges. But my mother was extremely a woman of great conviction, and she passed on a lot of teachings, one of which I share today, which really had to do with, in my mind, it's really a resounding message of the right of people to live with dignity and respect. And I think that that's been a driving force for me and a major teaching in my life, and I'm reminded of it every day. And she nurtured a lot of my sense of family and justice. So today, I actually passed this award on to my mother. I'm very, consider myself to have been blessed most of my life because I have been able to be educated in this country. I'm a UC brat. I went to several universities, University of California, and had a lot of support from my family. Also want to just acknowledge my sisters and my brothers, some of them who went to college and some of them did not, but they always encouraged me. And when I went home, they would have dinners, and they still do, to just kind of get me through my rough times, my senses of doubt, the discrimination I contended with, and the injustice I faced. And they were my backbone, and they are my backbone, my spina dorsal, as we say. So I think, all I want to say today is I consider myself to be very blessed and very grateful for this award. It means a lot to me to see all these women who you've honored today, that do something every day to change the outcome, to change, the conditions of our lives together is so powerful. And I want to thank all the women, particularly the women of this board, for exemplifying that every day as well. You're an inspiration, you're mentoring, and we are grateful to you for all the things that you do. The chambers have changed. The climate has changed because of the energy of women in this room. So I want to give you that and thank you for that. I am very proud to be the executive director of Instituto Familiar de la Raza, and just want to leave you with something that's very important for me and for all the people I work with is a vision. We have a vision, and our vision is that our community, Chicano, Latino, Indígena, can remain and sustain health and can really draw upon its own culture, its relationships, its allies to advance healing in our community. Unfortunately, we share the pain and the oppression with other people, but we are working very well together across communities of color and within our own community to acknowledge how, what is it that we need to do in our communities to really kind of lift ourselves, maintain a strong spirit, and be able to do the work that we have to do to create a better life for each one of us. I want to also just end by saying that, as so many other women spoke to, we should all accept this award today on behalf of the unsung heroes, the heroines, the women every day who get on the bus, who take their children to school, who take care of their grandchildren, who deal with so many issues in their lives so that they extend themselves out to try to be a part of the healing of our community. So today, I acknowledge all of them and I thank them all. I'd like to also just ask if some of the women of Instituto could just stand up, and also want to acknowledge people who are from the SF HIP and Carecen, who I work with every day to try to move this agenda, to move the dial, to change the outcome for our community. So if you could just stand up. So thank you all again, and I'm so fortunate to have a work that I love, a passion, something that brings me passion every day. So thank you once again.
Okay. Just us two right now? Okay.
Thank you again, Ms. Garcia, for your work, and thank you to all the honorees for all of the amazing work that you do for the City and County of San Francisco. This brings our program to a conclusion, and what an amazing event full of amazing women who serve our city each and every day. So thank you, and let's give them another round of applause. Thank you to the Director of the Commission on the Status of Women, Emily Marase, again, and there will be a reception at 5 o'clock in room 201 for all of the honorees and their guests. Again, thank each and every one of you, and we will be returning to our regularly scheduled program. That is the Board of Supervisors meeting, and hopefully finish in time to join you at the reception. Madam Clerk, let's go to roll call for introductions.
Thank you, Madam President. Supervisor Fewer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Today, colleagues, I am introducing a resolution recognizing March 2018 as Problem Gambling Awareness Month in partnership with NICO's Chinese Health Organization and my co-sponsor, Supervisor Norman Yee. 6 to 8 million Americans, including more than 1.2 million Californians, meet the criteria for problem gambling, an issue that we know can cause a range of issues impacting psychological, physical, social, spiritual, and emotional health. Americans gamble more money each year than they spend on groceries, betting upwards of $900 billion annually. In fact, the estimated national social cost to families and communities due to bankruptcy, divorce, job loss, home loss, and criminal justice costs associated with problem gambling is $6.7 billion each year. High-risk communities include seniors, youth, college students, veterans, African Americans, Asian Americans, Latino, Hispanics, and Native Americans, but only 15% of problem gamblers ever seek treatment. The goal of today's resolution, in alignment with the 14th Annual National Problem Gambling Awareness Month, is to build awareness of the resources available to support individuals and our communities in seeking help. Colleagues, I respectfully ask for your support on this resolution, which would mark the 5th year of our city recognizing the month of March as Problem Gambling Awareness Month in the City and County of San Francisco. The rest I submit.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Kim. Thank you. Supervisor Ronan.
Thank you. Today, colleagues, I have 2 items. I'm calling for 2 hearings. The first is a hearing to understand why the pipeline of affordable housing projects in my district is taking so long. My constituents are desperate for affordable housing, and I want to know what we can do to bring these units to my community quicker. It is no secret that District 9 has one of the highest rates of displacement and loss of rent-controlled units in the city. Right now, there are 7 100% affordable housing buildings in the District 9 pre-development pipeline, with 790 units for families and seniors. For many tenants in my district, their only hope of remaining in San Francisco is the affordable housing lottery, using the preference for tenants who've been displaced by eviction or fire, or the preference for neighborhood residents. Just as critical, 20% of these units, 158, are reserved for people who are currently homeless. Every day of delay means another night on the streets in cars and tents, or using a spot in a navigation center or shelter. Each of these projects has a backstory. Public sites prioritized for affordable housing at 1950 Mission and 2060 Folsom, land dedication in lieu of on-site BMRs for 1296 Shotwell and 681 Florida, purchase of privately owned parcels at 490 South Van Ness and 1919 Folsom, and the repurposing and expansion of a small nonprofit-owned property on 24th Street. None of these would have happened without the fierce work of community advocates who push and push, knowing that the affordable housing we will build may be the only way for low-income friends and families and neighbors to remain in the city. These 7 projects moved into the pipeline in 2015 and 2016. For several, this followed years of community review and input to dedicate the sites. We are blessed with the most sophisticated community nonprofit developers and strong leadership and support from skillful and committed MOHCD staff. We have declared that all city departments must give priority processing to affordable housing, and yet we are not seeing any of these projects move into construction. None have broken ground. I cannot express how frustrating this is. There has got to be a way of moving these faster. And I'm asking our developers and city staff to provide updates on progress to date and to explain the timelines and expectations for starting construction. I understand that there are aspects of development that are difficult to control, but my patience is wearing thin because these are not normal times. We have a raging homeless crisis on our street and an extreme middle and working class housing shortage. It is my responsibility to my constituents to ensure that we are doing everything possible to identify and remove obstacles that are standing in our way of building these projects. I need to be able to commit to my community that these 7 and all future projects will move at lightning speed from acquisition through design and entitlements through financing and groundbreaking and getting us to the moment that we open the doors and hand the keys to new tenants. I look forward to working with our city departments and our community nonprofit developers to identify the obstacles and to being creative in finding solutions. After the incredible honor we just held for women, I also have been reflecting on Women's History Month. And what comes to mind first and foremost is the power of the Me Too movement and its role in bringing to light the pervasiveness of sexual assault and sexual harassment in our nation. I'm inspired by Tarana Burke, who coined the hashtag #MeToo and galvanized a movement to bring forth survivors of sexual violence, and I'm in awe of the women who have shared their personal stories of sexual assault and abuse. Even though media reports of sexual abuse and assault have become more common, our society's response continues to ebb and flow with the news cycles. We learn about horrific cases like that of Harvey Weinstein abusing dozens of women, and it mobilizes us to action. But once the news cycle ends, we go back to our daily lives and initiatives seem to lose traction. Our society's fluctuating attention to this issue based on news cycles is also mirrored here in the Bay Area. We recently learned of Keith Asbury's case in Alameda County. Asbury is accused of raping 4 women and a 15-year-old girl, and ultimately of raping and murdering a victim named Rondir Kaur in 2015. All of these crimes were committed during the decade spanning from 2005 to 15, when Asbury was in and out of custody. The most terrifying aspect of the story is that if evidence on previous cases' rape kit had been processed and Asbury convicted, Rondir Kaur could still be alive today. In fact, an independent organization has estimated that California has 13,000 untested rape kits. Processing these rape kits and addressing additional systemic cracks in the system is not just meeting our bureaucratic obligations. Fixing these systemic problems can save lives. In San Francisco, we also have a broken system that fails sexual assault and harassment victims. We like to think our city is immune to these problems, but that is not the case. While we are doing better than most places in California when it comes to rape kits, I am hearing appalling systemic failures from sexual assault survivors coming to my office for help. Survivors have shared that they are being treated like it's their fault that they were raped. A survivor shared that she waited over 3 hours to be tested for drugs in her bloodstream when she believed her rape was drug facilitated. And one of the most infuriating accounts was of a police investigator telling a survivor, "On further thought, I won't release to you the results of your rape kit," after the survivor begged for her legal right to see those results. This is simply outrageous. We have a system that is broken. If our city departments are not taking assault survivors seriously and treating them with respect, then how can we expect survivors to come forward? The problem is large and affecting many populations. I want to commend Supervisor Kim for addressing this issue with young people within our school system. Today, I want to focus attention on this issue citywide and put an end to the cycle that only addresses sexual assault when the news makes it relevant. I'm calling for a hearing on how sexual assault and sexual harassment cases are being handled by city departments when victims come forward to seek justice against their attackers. I want to understand how evidence is collected and processed, how health services are provided to survivors, how cases are investigated by the police department, and how the district attorney's office handles the prosecution of these cases. A central question throughout is how is each department ensuring that women are taken seriously and treated with respect throughout this process? We owe sexual assault and harassment survivors a justice system that restores their sense of dignity and wholeness. I look forward to this hearing and will be working with the city attorney on legislative solutions to this critical issue. The rest I submit.
Thank you. Supervisor Safai.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I rise today on two issues. One is near and dear to my heart and my culture. Today, I'd like, if we could, end in honor of Persian New Year. Today is the first day of the Persian New Year. It is the vernal equinox. It is celebrated by 17 countries around the world, 22 ethnic groups. It is a cultural celebration that dates back over 3,000 years. I'm very proud to say we will have the 14th annual Nowruz. Nowruz means new day in Farsi. Nowruz celebration here in City Hall on Friday. Any of you want to come by, it's this Friday evening. You'll get to see a small taste of our culture. I'm very, very proud to be a part of that and have celebrated this new day or new year celebration since I was a small child. In Iran, they celebrate, and throughout the world, they celebrate it for 13 days. It's very similar to the Lunar New Year in the sense that families get together, they share gifts and stories. A big part of the culture is poetry, and a big part of the culture is, in many ways, predates any religious aspects, so it's a non-secular religion, non-secular celebration. So we're very, very excited about that, if we could end in honor of that today. Secondly, have an ordinance that we've been talking about and working on for over 2 years. Supervisor Ronan and I had a meeting when both of us were not supervisors to talk about the frustration that many small retailers and those small business owners have faced when confronting the bureaucracy here in the city. And this is accessory use catering that will be allowed in limited restaurants. Think cafes, think bakeries. Oftentimes, these businesses have kitchens. They use those kitchens for a small portion of the day, and traditionally, they have worked with catering businesses to rent out that space. Unfortunately, in the last few years, many of those businesses have confronted our city's bureaucracy and have been thwarted. One business in particular, when Supervisor Ronan and I met about this a couple of years ago, when we were not supervisors, as I said, was La Victoria Bakery in the Mission. We share that business in many ways. It is housed in her district, but the owners are constituents of mine. And they were simply trying to memorialize a practice that they have done all the way back, literally, to the 60s, and when the last time we had the Democratic Convention here in San Francisco, they were catering out of that business to provide services all over San Francisco. They were confronted with obstacles such as, if you're a caterer and you use that space, you have to provide your products in the front of the store. If you're a caterer and using that space, you have to have a limited number of them. There's all these confusing aspects between the Department of Public Health and the Planning Department. I want to commend the Planning Department for working with me, and we came up with some very simple clarifications. Essentially, this would be limited to limited restaurants, so think bakeries and cafes. We don't want to discourage or encourage actually restaurants and limiting their time operations to encourage them to do this. We actually want this to enhance an existing business that is now confronted in many ways by so many other competitive aspects in this environment, being a small retailer. So we want them to use their space in a positive way so that they can support their businesses and support those caterers that might not necessarily have the startup capital to have a brick and mortar space. So we've worked with the planning department. I'm very excited about this introduction. I know Supervisor Ronan wants to be an immediate co-sponsor, and we will talk about this over the next few months, but we're very excited about this, colleagues. The rest I submit.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Sheehy.
Submit.
Thank you, Supervisor Stephanie. Thank you, Supervisor Tang.
Thank you very much. Today I have a couple pieces of legislation. One of them has to do with also trying to address the issue of affordable housing in the form of accessory dwelling units throughout San Francisco. I know that it has been a hot topic and been raised by several colleagues as well. I do feel that ADUs are a solution for neighborhoods such as the Sunset, given that they can more easily fit into the neighborhood of the character of a neighborhood while providing affordable housing and allow for multi-generational families to live together and hopefully, again, at a more affordable rate. I know that it has been challenging for many of these units to be approved through our city's processes, whether it's the programmatic requirements or the permitting in general. And so today I'm introducing one of a series of legislation to help our average everyday homeowners be able to build more ADUs easily. So in a nutshell, we are proposing some permitting process improvements. We want to remove the barriers to ADU approvals and expand eligibility requirements. And to do so, we'd like to ask that, first of all, at pre-app meetings, that all relevant department staff be present during a project sponsor's pre-application meeting, including DBI, fire, and planning department. And I think that this will eliminate a lot of the confusion that project sponsors often go through to understand what requirements they need to meet. We also want to allow the addition of ADUs in new construction of 3 units or less, remove certain requirements that have been unnecessary hindrances for building ADUs, such as street tree requirements or bike parking. We do believe that our city has other ways of addressing these issues. Also exempting ADUs constructed within the existing envelope of a building from certain noticing requirements. So those are some of the main elements of this first piece of legislation. We are also going to be drafting very shortly legislation to figure out how it is that we can allow for more what we're calling and dubbing ADU infills in backyards of corner lots. Those are areas that we think are perfect for ADUs and can solve for a lot of our housing challenges. Secondly, I'm introducing a resolution declaring support for AB 2243, which is a piece of legislation over in the state assembly that supports sex worker immunity. So this bill would provide protections for sex workers who want to come forward to report a crime of violence perpetrated against them during an act of prostitution, or who want to testify as a witness to such a crime. So we want to support Assemblymember Laura Friedman, who introduced this legislation in the state assembly. And then lastly, I did want to also introduce a resolution declaring March as National Kidney Month in San Francisco. And we also want to thank a city attorney who had helped us write this legislation, who personally has some experiences with kidney transplants as well, but also wanted to send forth our in memoriams as well to the family of Matthew Wolford. And with that, I submit.
Thank you, Supervisor Tang. Madam President, that concludes the introduction of new business.
Thank you. Can you please read public comment?
Now is the opportunity for the members of the public to address the entire Board of Supervisors for up to 2 minutes on items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board, to include the February 13th board meeting minutes and items 22 through 26 on the without reference to committee calendar. Public comment is not allowed when an item has already been subject to public comment at a board committee. Pursuant to the board's rules of order, please direct your remarks to the entire membership of the Board of Supervisors and not to individual members nor to the audience. Speakers using interpretation will be allowed twice the amount of time to testify. And to display your document on the overhead projector, please clearly state such to SFG TV and then remove the document when you'd like the screen to return to live coverage of the meeting.
First speaker, please.
I'm here today to take care of statements and representation for the females as well. Unlike the rest of you, I'm here to represent the females who are victims of crimes. May I have SF viewer, please? The San Francisco Police Department and the District Attorney's Office, in my view, has on or about 1,000 rape kits that have not been tested and just sitting in the storeroom at the Hall of Justice, okay? The police department has refused to take in part of a pair of $2 million grants from the District Attorney George Gascon, okay? Moreover, more cases of rape have statute of limitations of 10 years. By this reference, I move you to incorporate that the statute of limitation has exceptions to the rule. And I'd like this information to be passed to all females who think that they cannot come forth because the statute of limitations has ran out. It's called continual injury. And it also should be applied to all the females that was raped by Bill Cosby and other high-profile cases. Moreover, 2 million, most of which have gone to the police department for testing, rape kits have fell outside the statute of limitations. Still, they should be applied, okay? During this time frame, there was 437 rape kits of older than 10 years, and this is discrimination based on sex in violation of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, because you process male victims of crimes, but when you have female victims of crime, you let their evidence just sit there in the evidence room. It's not fair. Another violation that takes place that you're not following, and then you claim that you're worried about housing. This section 334.13 of the community law says 15% of brand new buildings is supposed to be for low income and affordable housing. But yet, when you build the building, you exclude and don't include those people.
Thank you, Mr. White. Thanks, sir. And next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Supervisors. In regards to the recent fire in North Beach, unless Fire Chief Joanne Hayes White can come up with a better excuse than the delay of her employees' slow response in extinguishing the fire, she needs to be terminated by the interim mayor. Her position is at the pleasure of the mayor. We need someone like Ms. Hayes was 15 years ago. Many times, Ms. Joanne Hayes White leadership has been under fire and criticism. Ms. White leadership has become dismal. We cannot let this go on being missed signs and opportunity. It's not about no one killed, no one hurt, just another building on fire. This fire could have taken just as many lives than the Pulse nightclub and the Ghost Ship warehouse combined. San Francisco could have suffered a permanent black eye. There need to be 2 independent investigations after the arson investigation to decide, was it a soft story building that needed to go? And who was waiting for their wheels to be greased by the insurance companies? District Attorney George Gascon may need to be notified. We listened to President Trump repetitive talk about sanctuary cities. Why didn't the interim mayor show up to shake hands with the victims of the North Beach fire, but made time to make it to the fire victims in the suburbs on West Portal? Is the interim mayor going to start separating himself from lower class neighborhoods versus the suburbs? Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Good evening. My name is Ali Alikani. I am the 30 years taxi driver. This is almost 4 or 5 years I followed this situation as the time the Uber started to this city. The taxi driver, I want everybody in here to feel them. Really, really be suffering. I am in here to scream. I cannot handle it. I cannot take it anymore. I am not the only guys. I come in here again and again, ask your guys. I'm 65 years. They forced me to buy the medallion. It was not my wish after 30 years. Supposed to give me free. Please. I want to get retired. I want to get my money back. Your guys have to be issued some things to do something, I get out, not me. I must be people that buy the medallion. They are suffering. We don't want to be the driver. They don't want to do anything with this city. I just want to get out after 50 years. I cannot do it anymore. What language I said to your guys? Please, figure them up. Do something to this year's. We are mentally, physically sick. The driver working 100 hours a week. They destroyed their house, they divorced, the people get heart attack. Swear to God, last week, 2 weeks ago, the guys, he get heart attack. So many cab drivers dying. MTA do nothing. MTA, he not doing the job. We supposed to be sell the medallion. They cannot do it. Bring the professional or give it to the private section to do something. Or your guys have to issue maybe the bond. I want to get out, please. I don't want to die like that. I'm suffering so much. I already service to this country 50 years. I have to be retired. I cannot do it, please.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments, sir.
Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
I just wanted to say congratulations to the women honored today, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. First, I'd like to say that I'm a sole proprietor women's owned business in the Mission District of San Francisco, a graduate of San Francisco State and a California native. Concerning today's vote on the agenda of the fur ban, number 171317, a yes vote will close my 25-year-old hat-making business.
Ma'am, I'm pausing your time. That item is on the regular agenda, and it has had its public comment requirement met. So
And this is regarding an amendment. Can I just read my piece?
if you can talk generally about the item, perhaps the president would allow that, but generally there is no public comment on items that have already had their public comment during the committee.
You can also submit anything that you have in writing to the clerk to distribute to the entire Board of Supervisors as well.
Okay, I didn't understand that it pertained to my business, or I would have spoken. I only found out today that it pertained to my business. And
As the president mentioned, we're happy to take your comments, and we'll make sure the members get all
And you
of
can speak of it generally, but not necessarily about the specific legislation, and you can talk about your business and just what your business does and the impact of things just in general.
now,
Or if you want to take a minute to compose your thoughts, we can come back to you. It's just, unfortunately, we've taken public comment for this, and we can't allow anyone to comment specifically about the item at this time since it has already occurred. And so we can let you come back if you can step to the side, and we'll have someone explain to you, and then we can figure out how we can make it so that your information is submitted into the record.
all right, thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Namdev Sharma. I drove taxi 24 years. I'm 55 years old. I don't have much energy to do this business, so I brought two topics. My first topic is taxi drivers' funds contributed by medallion buyers, not by taxi drivers. SFMTA distributing taxi fund to all taxi drivers. Even they start like 6 months before or 1 year before. I know it's not much money, but it belongs to medallion buyers because they paid, some paid like 5% payment down, some paid 20% down. So we are in a crisis. We need big help. Okay, so second is, as you know, San Francisco City government has sold us taxi medallions. Each medallion costs us $250,000. It's like 8 years ago, it was based on provide taxi facility to disabled and paratransit people. For this, taxi buyers has been punished. SFMTA promised to protect our business, but it was under-delivered. They didn't protect our business. They were supposed to raise citation to Uber, Lyft. They never did. Since 2012, San Francisco City government fully supported to Uber and Lyft to kill taxi medallion buyers. There is only 5% paratransit business in San Francisco left, and 10% hotel business, which is total 15% business for taxis. Therefore, we cannot survive with this 15% lazy business. We drive 16 to 20 hours a day.
Thank you for your comments.
Sir, I'm sorry, your time is up, but thank you for your comments. Sir, your time is up. Sir, I'm sorry. Thank you. Next speaker, please. And to members of the public, I apologize, but we have to give everyone the same amount of time. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon. The topic is the same about the taxi. And the taxi drivers are halting. And I don't think that some of these Board of Supervisors have any attention whatsoever. But I admire these couple of Board of Supervisors that I met last week. And I got little hope that you guys will take some kind of action and alleviate our pain at least a bit, or at least as much as you can. I am sick, as you can feel from my voice, but I still come to work. I work 365 days in a year. For last 2 years, I never took one day off. I am a father of 4. Don't you guys realize that I do need a weekend off? If you think that I do need a weekend off, then please do something. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Patty Quadra, and I'm here because I have 2 issues. One is just backing track of having a rent-control apartment and being displaced from there. Nothing to do with me, but I'm displaced, and I'm born and raised in San Francisco. When I used to come here and speak, I recognize a lot of people in this panel here, but I don't recognize anybody here anymore. You know, so I am talking to strangers. However, that's something that I'm trying to solve now. But the reason why I'm here is because I'm trying to save 115 Telegraph Hill. We have such a beautiful city, but I don't recognize it anymore, like I don't recognize a lot of people here. We have the Golden Gate Bridge, we have the Bay Bridge, we have the crooked street in the world, and we have the Transamerica building. We have more than that. But now it's Coit Tower that is in jeopardy. You guys know about a building that's going up there, more housing that's going up there, which probably be about $10,000 to rent a studio, which none of you guys probably can afford. Well, I don't think that should be built. Me with Joseph Cohen, he's actually the reason why I'm here. He walked into the San Francisco Foundation and told me about this. I'm pissed off because this is another thing under our noses. You guys know about it, but it's not out there. Well, we want to build a park. We want a Boys and Girls Club and maybe a vegetable garden. But I want a park. I don't want more buildings up there. And I can't believe it's going to happen by Coit Tower. But that's what we're proposing. And I'm going to, if I have everything to do with it, I'm going to get it done. I'm not going to let more luxury suites go up. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please. Mr. Washington.
Well, you could call me Ace. I'm in your place, and I know how to act now. You know, like that song saying, I've changed. I'm going to sing that for you later. But I'm here celebrating the women today. I was upstairs at 4 or 5 commissioners' meeting, and I'm down here for my last meeting. So what I have to say today is politically, if that's okay. I was at a mayor's forum last night. I was very disappointed. First of all, I couldn't get in. It was over there on Castro. And I did a little monologue before I did my show, how I used to come over there when I was a little boy and watch movies back then. But it changed, the street changed and everything. But I couldn't get in, so they said they had to have tickets to get in. So what I'm going to do for the mayor's candidates, I'm going to sponsor and get some more sponsors. We're going to have a mayor's candidate in the Fillmore. and talk about three issues: black issues, the youth, and the seniors. So y'all get ready, all you candidates. My name is Ace, and I'm on the case. I'm going to invite you to where I stay at. Where me, London Breed, the queen. And the thing about it, politics full of tricks. They've been treating my queen pretty wrong here lately. Even though I don't agree with her politics, I don't like the way they treating you, queen. And I don't like it. And they're going to hear about it. My name is Ace, and I'm on the case. But let me just say this to the mayor. What is his name? Oh, Mark. He fit the part. He's going to help me come out the dark. But you know what, y'all? His stay is only that short. Because we finna go into a new cycle with a 2-year mayor, and then there's a 4-year. It's a new era. And right now, ladies and gentlemen, I don't got no time for errors. I'm going to be dealing with our youth, our seniors, which I am a seniors, and our small popularity, which is African-American, Negro, blacks, whatever they want to call us. My name is Ace. I'm on the case, and y'all better leave Queen alone.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Thank you, Supervisor Bree, President of the Board, and the rest of the supervisors here today. My name is Mark Bruno. I'm from North Beach, and I want to address an issue that affects residents, residential, commercial tenants, as well as contractors and property owners, namely that in our city, surprisingly, and I had the opportunity to speak privately with Supervisor Safai about this last week, there is no requirement in the building code to, when work is being done, to post what that work is on the face of the building, at the site, anywhere at the location. I met privately with Joe Duffy, who's head of the building department inspectors, as you know, and I met as well with the assistant director of building, Patrick O'Riordan, I believe. And the point is, we all went through the code in detail to find such a section that would require this, and there is no requirement. So in New York today, and it was passed over 7 years ago, what's required is very simple. It says, the building permit or a copy thereof shall be posted in a conspicuous place at the work site, visible to the public for the duration of the work, or until the expiration of the permit, whichever is later. No such permit shall be posted or displayed at any location other than the location of the premises. And it goes on to explain what cannot be used to block the notice to the public, what cannot be used as advertising instead of a form that is simply a permit. It explains that because of weather conditions, perhaps this one-page permit should be laminated. And in our city, it is not very expensive to laminate something. It's only $2.65. In fact, the entire burden on the contractors and property owners to do what I'm suggesting, namely to place the permit on the site where the project is being done, is minimal. It's the cost of Scotch tape and a Xerox. And I think it makes sense for us to do that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. In honor of Women's History Month, I'd like to note that many feminists have said that women have been silenced throughout history. Their complaints have not been heard. And I doubt that there is a single member of this board who does not count themselves as a feminist, males included. So how is it then that you can fund an organization whose job it is to silence a significant segment of the population of this city? People thought to have mental illness. People thought to need coercion in order to attend treatment. It's been well established that people thought to have mental illness are able to make their own treatment decisions. And yet you're funding this organization at an astounding rate. In the time allotted to me to give you this speech, you will have handed over to them, through the city, another $1,000. By the time I get a chance to speak to you again in 2 weeks, you will have handed over to them approximately $3 million. This is something like 70 times all of your salaries combined. So I'm astounded that you would do this to an organization that has no transparency, no accountability, and minimal oversight. It's a black box. And I don't think there's a person in this room who doesn't know that the police that patrol on the streets with their nightsticks and their pistols, they are not the real police in this town. Citywide case management is. They are our police. They are our judges and juries. They are our jailers. And we want freedom. Madam Clerk.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any other members of the public who would like to address the board during general public comment? Madam President.
Seeing no other members of the public who'd like to provide public comment is now closed. Madam Clerk, please read the items for adoption without reference to committee.
Items 22 through 26 are being considered for adoption without committee reference. If a matter would like to have an item considered separately, it may be severed and considered separately.
Okay, seeing no names on the roster, colleagues, can we take these items? Same house, same call. Without objection, the items pass unanimously. And Madam Clerk, please read the in memoriams.
Today's meeting will be adjourned in memory of the following beloved individuals. On behalf of President Breed, for the late Miss Dana Harrison. On behalf of Supervisor Tang, for the late Mr. Matthew Wilfred and Miss Shailene Van Hook. And at the request of Supervisor Safai, in honor of Nowruz, the Iranian New Year.
Thank you. And colleagues, this brings us to the end of our agenda. Madam Clerk, is there any other business before us today?
That concludes our business for today.
Thank you, everyone. We are adjourned.